excited to be here and to do this interview. I've known Cindy for a long time, and I'm thrilled that we get her on the stage. I'm going to talk as little as possible because she has a lot to say, but I will give you the very quick backstory on Cindy, who grew up in Brunei, went to Oxford for English Lit, worked as a theater publicist, then broke into advertising and ended up starting the US operations of the British firm Bartle Bogle Hegarty. And then in 2005, you quit because, quote, "I like to blow shit up. I am the Michael Bay of business." Why?
Well, essentially, I turned 45 back in 2005, and I had my very own personal midlife crisis, in the sense that I'd always thought of 45 as kind of a midlife point, and that on one's 45th birthday was the moment to pause, reflect, take stock. So I duly did that on February 1, 2005. And that was the point at which I went, oh my God, I've just worked 16 years for the same ad agency. Love BBH to death, can't say enough nice things about them, but I felt it was time to do something different. And the problem then was I hadn't the faintest idea what. So vast amount of thought and angsting ensued, and eventually I went, if I want to examine every possible option open to me for what is effectively the second half of my life, maybe the best thing to do is to put myself on the market very publicly and go, okay guys, here I am, what do you got? And see what comes. So I took a massive leap into the unknown. I resigned as chairman of BBH in the summer of 2005 without a job to go to, and it was the best thing I ever did with my life.
Wow.
Because I could not be happier doing what I'm doing now. I'm reinventing myself in every possible way, including financially, but I'm now evangelical about working for yourself and making your own ideas happen.
So let's hear about what it is you're doing, and I think I'm not overstating when I say that we would all like to know what Make Love Not Porn is. And I think, by the way, this may be the first time I've said the word porn on any MPW stage, so I'm going to say it again, porn.
Well, Make Love Not Porn is a complete accident. I never consciously set out to do anything my team and I now find ourselves doing. I date younger men who tend to be men in their 20s. And through dating younger men, I began realizing about 7 or 8 years ago that I was encountering an issue that would quite honestly never have crossed my mind if I'd not encountered it very intimately and personally. I realized I was encountering what happens when two things converge. When today's total freedom of access to hardcore porn online meets our society's equally total reluctance to talk openly and honestly about sex, and results, therefore, in porn becoming, by default, the sex education of today in not a good way. So I found myself encountering a number of, if you like, sexual behavioral memes. I went, whoa, I know where that behavior is coming from. And being a very action-oriented person, I went, I want to do something about it. And that's how Make Love Not Porn was born.
And what exactly is it?
So Make Love Not Porn began 6.5 years ago as a tiny, clunky website that I put up on no money at makelovenotporn.com that posts the myths of hardcore porn and balances them with reality. So the construct is porn world versus real world. I had the opportunity to launch Make Love Not Porn at TED in 2009. I took a deliberate decision to be very explicit in my TED talk because I knew that audience wouldn't get this issue.
Highly recommended if you haven't had a chance to see this.
If you Google me, you'll find it.
Yes.
The talk went viral as a result, and it drove an extraordinary response to my tiny, clunky site, including thousands of emails from people all around the world, young and old, men and female, straight and gay, from every country in the world. And I realized that this was a huge global issue that nobody was acknowledging or tackling. And so I felt a huge personal responsibility to then take this initiative forwards in a way that would make it much more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. I believe the future of business is about doing good and making money simultaneously. And so I saw an opportunity for a business solution to this huge untapped need. And what I have to emphasize is, Make Love Not Porn is not anti-porn because the issue isn't porn. The issue is the absence in our society of an open, healthy, honest conversation around sex in the real world. So I decided to take every dynamic that exists out there in social media currently and apply them to the one area that no other social network or platform will go in order to socialize sex and to make real-world sex and the discussion around it socially acceptable and therefore just as socially shareable as anything else we share on Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Instagram. So a little over 2 years ago, my team and I launched MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, which is an entirely user-generated, crowdsourced video sharing platform that celebrates real-world sex. Anybody from anywhere in the world can submit videos of themselves having real-world sex, and we're very clear what we mean by this. We're not porn. We're not amateur. We're building a whole new category that doesn't currently exist. Our competition isn't porn, but Facebook and YouTube, or it would be if Facebook and YouTube allowed sexual self-expression. So it's not about performing for the camera, but just about capturing what goes on in the real world in all its funny, glorious, messy, silly, wonderful humanness. We curate, watch our video, make sure it's real, and we have a revenue-sharing business model. You pay to rent and stream real-world sex videos, and then 50% of that income goes to our contributors, or as we like to call you, our Make Love Not Porn stars.
Now, this is a giant business, right? I mean, what is the size of the sex tech industry or the pornography industry? I don't know how we want to define this.
Well, so here's the interesting thing, Jennifer. You're absolutely right. This is potentially a billion-dollar venture. And by the way, I'm determined to grow it to be one. What is standing in the way is two things. The first is my team and I fight a battle every single day to build Make Love Not Porn, essentially because every piece of business infrastructure any other startup would take for granted, we can't because the small print always says no adult content.
So for example?
I'm working to raise a round of funding at the moment. It's enormously challenging. I can't open a bank account with any bank anywhere in the world. No one will take my business. Putting payments in place is our biggest operational challenge. PayPal won't work with us. Amazon won't. We had to build our entire video sharing platform from scratch because, online services like Bright Cove won't stream adult content. And so what all of this boils down to is how I articulate obstacle, which is we are fighting the fear of what other people will think. It is never what the person I'm talking to thinks. When you understand what we're doing and why we're doing it, no one can argue with it. It's always the fear of what they think other people will think. And by the way, fear of what other people will think is the single most paralyzing dynamic in business and in life. You will never own the future if you care what other people think.
That's said brilliantly. You also, if you think about this this is not explicitly a woman's business. However, I think you have said the day we have an industry that targets 50% of the population and is run by 50% of the population is the day that it looks different. So if the sex business were run partly by women, how would it look? Well,
I have to say, first of all, it would be making so much more money. Because, and by the way, guys, as an entrepreneur fighting a battle, I follow my own advice to other entrepreneurs. When you have a truly world-changing startup, you have to change the world to fit it, not the other way around. And so I'm constantly opening up the tech and business world's minds to sex tech. And one of the points I make is, oh my God, the money to be made. But the money to be made in two areas, the second one of which nobody ever thinks about, because they don't even think it's possible. The first is obviously the money to be made out of sex. We all have it, we all enjoy it, recession-proof, market never goes away. But the second area is, oh my God, the money to be made out of socially acceptable sex. When you do what we're doing with Make Love Not Porn, socialize sex, make it acceptable and shareable, you potentially double, triple, quadruple your returns when you normalize people feeling really okay about publicly buying into your goods and services, publicly doing what they do with everything else, advocate, share, recommend, and publicly badging themselves as brand ambassadors. That's the billion-dollar future we're going after, and the proof of how viable that is out there right now, because at this moment in time, the single highest income-grossing author in the world is E.L. James. The author of 50 Shades of Grey has out-earned Dan Brown, Michael Crichton, Jim Patterson. 50 Shades of movie broke box office opening weekend records. That is the financial power of socially acceptable, socially shareable sex, but it's also the power of something else I like to say a lot, which is that there is a huge amount of money to be made out of taking women seriously.
Absolutely. So, raising money, you have said, for all of the logistical reasons and also sort of the emotional reasons has not been easy for you. in our earlier conversation, I said, well, why don't you just change the name? You know, make it slightly more socially acceptable. And you said?
Yeah, along this very difficult journey, many lovely, well-meaning people have said, Cindy, why don't you just change the name of your company? Call it something different. Take the word porn out of it, innocuous holding company name, doing business as, it'll make your life so much easier. There are practical reasons why I don't do that, but the most fundamental one is a principle. When you concept and design a venture around existing societal bias and prejudice, all you do is reinforce it. I refuse to bow to existing bias and prejudice because I'm out to change it. And so we are out to be exactly what we're encouraging everyone to be around sex. Open, honest, in a way that will encourage more communication and more dialogue, and will basically make us all much happier. Make Love Not Porn operates in the single biggest market of them all. Not porn, not sex, the market of human happiness. And by following our own philosophy of being open, healthy, honest, and out there, we want to make lives much happier for all of you and for all of your children.
Excellent. I know we're going to have questions, so get ready. But just very quickly, I also want to mention that Cindy has been very, very vocal, not only with her own business, but in speaking about women and changing the ratio of women in business and so forth. And in fact, I think you gave another speech just in the last day or so, in which...
Last Friday, yes, that's right, at the 3% conference, which is a wonderful initiative set up by Kat Gordon, a creative director in my industry, advertising, to address the fact that 97% of all advertising agency creative directors are men, only 3% are women, and therefore we are played back to ourselves in advertising all the time through the male gaze, despite the fact that we are the primary purchasers in every product sector and the primary influencers of purchase in every sector, including, by the way, sectors traditionally thought to be male. In the US, now more women than men hold driver's licenses. In the very important millennial car buying market, 53% of new car buyers are female, but who are the automotive industry still targeting their ads at? And so I spoke at the 3% Conference London, our first gathering in London here on Friday. And by the way, one of the things I talked about was the issue that's been discussed here, which is the fact that in creative departments as well in the ad industry, you know, women will occasionally say, I don't want to be hired just because I'm a woman. You know, I want to be hired on my own merits, my own talents. And what I said on Friday was, get over that, because all around you in the ad industry are mediocre creatives who've been hired because they're men. So absolutely get hired as a woman, and then demonstrate that you are a bloody brilliant creative talent. But do not back off going, you know, I don't want to be hired because I'm a woman, because that is every reason to get in there, seize that opportunity, and demonstrate exactly what we're capable of.
Which is similar to what Lucy said about on the board's panel. Okay, who's got a question? You dare to have a question, don't you?
Oh, guys, come on, you can ask me anything.
Come on.
Aha.
You talk about curating the content on your website. How do you determine what is socially acceptable content versus bleeding into something that, you know, it's somewhat open to interpretation, I would think, as to what's socially acceptable?
Right. So just to clarify, when I talk about socially acceptable, what I mean by that is that we are presenting real-world sex in a way that has never been done before. TechCrunch, the tech blog, wrote a piece on us in April, which really got what we're doing. They said the internet and the tech world has self-divided into porn and non-sexual content. And Cindy and Make Love Not Porn are filling the gap in between with sexual content that isn't porn. We don't dictate what real-world sex is, but we operate like nobody else does on the internet around this whole area. My background is 30 years working in brand building, marketing, and advertising. I know the single most important factor for any brand is trust, and it's particularly important for us because we're encouraging people who've never done this before to video themselves having sex and to share it on our platform. So first of all, you cannot complete our submissions process unless everybody in your video is over 18, it's fully consensual. We require 2 forms of visual ID for every participant, including, by the way, if you've chosen to have somebody behind the camera. We may not see them, we need to know who they are. The moment you submit, we engage with you personally. Our wonderful Madam Curator Sarah Beale, our Assistant Curator Ariel Martinez will Skype with you, answer questions, reassure you. Your video is only visible on our platform to our community by members who've actually paid to rent it. And the reason we operate a rent and stream model as opposed to a download and own is because our commitment to you is that the moment anything changes, your relationship, your life, your circumstances, your mind, you tell us, we take the videos down, they're gone forever. You can be anonymous, wear masks, faces in shadow. Ladies, please consider submitting to MakeLoveNotPorn.tv. And we actually get to know, we're building a Make Love Not Porn star community. We get to know you in the real world. We hold events. I've held 2 drinks parties at my apartment in New York where we invite our Make Love Not Porn stars to come and meet each other, meet us. We would love our Make Love Not Porn stars one day to be celebrated as YouTube stars for the same reasons. Their individuality, their authenticity, their realness, and we'd also like them to make as much money.
And there's also an educational component to this.
Critically important, and I don't know how many of you as parents are aware of this, but the average age today at which a child is first exposed to hardcore porn online is 8. And a global study done last year indicates that age has now dropped to 6. This is not because 8-year-olds, 6-year-olds go looking for porn, they don't. It's a function of what in the digital world we live in today is utterly inevitable, they stumble across it. Parents write to us all the time about this, and this is happening at a time when parents still find it very difficult to talk to their kids about sex. And, you know, back in my day, if you're one of those parents prepared to at least try and have the conversation, it used to be purely logistical. This goes into this, when a man loves a woman, the birds and the bees. The conversation I have today is very different. I won't be as graphic as I normally am on the stage about this. So one of the reasons we're raising funding, we're looking to raise $2 million, £1.3 million, to build what I characterize as the Khan Academy of Sex Education. For those of you familiar with Khan Academy, the online education platform, Khan Academy tutors on every other topic except this one. The exploding edtech sector is failing to address sex, relationships, intimacy. We want to build Make Love Not Porn Academy on the same principles as MakeLoveNotPorn.tv, user-generated crowdsourced revenue sharing, invite sex educators everywhere in the world to submit their materials, videos, tools, coursework, papers. We'll publish segmented by age appropriateness. If you're a parent going, oh my God, my 7-year-old just asked about this, you can go here. A teacher with a class of 12 to 14-year-olds, go here. An adult there. We will charge to subscribe, download, own, as a school, bulk order. By the way, huge revenue stream. And we will split the revenue 50-50 with its creators. Because currently nobody goes into sex education to make money. I'd like to change that. In a tech world where technology is pushing us further apart into our own separate virtual worlds, at Make Love Not Porn, we're using technology to bring people closer together and to build better communication around sex, to lead to better relationships, to lead to better lives.
We have time for one more quick question.
We've had 2 down
we
there.
need the, the mic.
The first one with the mic, Faith.
Oh, hi. And
Faith,
please identify yourself.
Hi, Faith Popcorn here. So I applaud you, one. You have not taken an easy road to be the spokesperson of Making Love Not Porn. And I was wondering, what in your background made you step out on this extremely, I would say, volatile platform?
Thank you, Faith. And so actually, what inspired me to do this and what has kept me going through, as Faith says, a very, very difficult journey is, I mentioned earlier the extraordinary response that I got to MakeLoveNotPorn.com 6 years ago. And the fact that every single day for the past 6.5 years, and this is ongoing, I've received thousands of emails to my Make Love Not Porn inbox. And those emails come from people who, even before the website I put up, what amazes them is simply the fact that I stood on the stage in public, I'm doing something about what everybody knows and no one ever speaks about. And as a result, people feel able to tell me anything. They pour their hearts out to me in email. They tell me things about their sex lives and their porn watching habits they've never told anyone else before. 15-year-old boys write for advice, 50-year-old women write. And, you know, I've regular moments felt utterly demotivated by the battle we're fighting. I've wanted to give up. I get another one of those heart-rending emails, and that's what keeps me going. Coupled with the fact that my single biggest motivating dynamic is, and I will delete the expletive, but I'm going to bloody well show you. You tell me it can't be done, I'm going to bloody well show you. Put an obstacle on my path, I'm going to bloody well show you. And I channel all of that into inspiration. And by the way, I would love the help and support of everybody in this room in terms of changing the relationship future of yourselves, your children, and the world at large. And I enormously appreciate the fact that Fortune has actually allowed me to talk about this normally very taboo subject on this stage today, because this is a really exceptional experience for me, and I'm enormously grateful.
And we are all extremely grateful that Cindy was able to be here, and she is available to talk about anything you would like to hear or to share with her for the rest of the day. I would like to thank Cindy so very much.
Thank you very much, guys. Thank you.